Hi everyone, I'm Renee Cooper, and I'm a training specialist here at 2020. And in today's session, we're going to look at 2020 CAP Complete and really the basics as to how the program works. And I thought the best way to do that is just to show you how I would set up a small project. So let's go ahead and load into 2020 CAP Complete. Now, as I mentioned, I'm a training specialist here at 2020. But I'm also a longtime designer in the industry. And so one of the things that I love about CAP Complete is the fact that the drawing platform that is built in is based off of AutoCAD. And so if you've ever used AutoCAD, this is a very easy transition to work in 2020 CAP Complete. Now I like to get started by just setting my user preferences from a drawing platform standpoint. So I'm going to come down to my drawing tray and I'm actually going to turn off my grid. And these might differ based on the different type of projects that you're working on. I'm going to turn on my ortho. I'm going to come over to my object snap and I'm going to go into the settings and I just want to make sure it's set to node. That way I can easily snap my components together. Everything else down here looks good. And then I'm going to go up to my 2020 CAP Complete Start menu. And I'm going to go into Drawing Utilities and I'm going to check my units because I like to draw in feet and inches. So I'm going to set that to architectural. Now that I have my preferences set, I am ready to get started. And with this particular project, I actually have a building shell that I can bring in that I received from an architect in a DWG AutoCAD format. And so again, because 2020 CAP Complete is based off of AutoCAD, it's very easy to work with these building shells, not only in bringing them in, but also if you need to make any modifications to them. Now there's a couple ways that you can bring them in, and I'm just going to use the basic insert block. So I'm going to grab that off my desktop and I'm going to place it at 0, 0. Now it doesn't look like anything happened, but I just need to go up to my Views tab and do a zoom extents. And now you can see that building shell. Now for this project, we're going to focus on this student area. But as you can see, there's probably some things I want to clean up here a little bit. And one being this grid. The second, we have some dimensions over here associated with that grid. Now I can go into my layer properties and manipulate these layers, but in 2020 CAP Complete, I have a wonderful command in my layer profiles called Layer Off, and it does just that. Once you select your entity, it just turns the layer off that it's associated with. So there I could quickly just clean up my building shell. And so now I am ready to start placing product. And I'll be doing that out of my Explore bar here on the left-hand side. And now if you've ever worked with our 2020 worksheet program, you'll notice that this looks identical. And here we have a content tab. We have access to our projects. We have a search function, and we also have the ability to bookmark our components. Now I'm going to use our 2020 Enriched Data Demo Catalog. Now I'm going to use our 2020 Enriched Data Demo Manufacturer and Catalog for this project. And I think I'll look at placing some bookshelves and just some tables and chairs in this area. So I'm going to start off with storage. Now, the one nice thing about this data demo catalog is it has a lot of just generic furniture in it. So if you're ever in need of something generic, I suggest you check out this catalog. And so I'm going to go ahead and just drag and drop this bookcase in and place it by just left clicking and rotating that in place. And now a really quick feature is I can hit my space bar, and because we have what's called running commands, that bookcase once again appears on my cursor. I don't need to come over and drag and drop that back in. And so I can come over here and snap to the node, rotate, and place those bookcases back to back. Now next I want to look at placing some tables, so I'm just going to use this drop down to be able to navigate through my catalog. So I'm going to go into tables and just pick a square table here. And again, I'm just going to left click and hold and drag and drop this into my drawing space. And come back and go back into seating. There's a couple different ways that you can navigate through your Explorer bar, but I really like to just use that drop down so I can go to the exact location very quickly. And so I'm just going to place this chair. Now to place 3 more chairs, I could just drag and drop them in. However, I'm going to make use of a command called copy rotate. Basically, I'm just going to select that chair. I'm going to pick a base point using my table as a reference, rotate, and there I've quickly copied a second chair. I'm going to do the same, selecting both chairs this time. And there now I've quickly placed 4 chairs around that table. There's some other commands that you can use as well, especially if it's a round chair. There is an array command that you can use. Now I actually want to rotate this table, so I'm going to go ahead and use the actual rotate command here. And I'm going to rotate that on a 45. Now let's say I want to place table and chairs here on the other side of my bookcases. So again, I can use that copy rotate command. And I'm just going to use my bookcase as my reference point. Now let's say I want to take this grouping and copy it over to the right. Well, in our tools, I also have not only copy rotate, but I also have the ability to offset copy. And so this is a great command, especially if you're working with panel systems and you need to copy them around your building shell and leave aisleways. I can quickly do that by just using the offset copy command. So I'm selecting my items. I'm just picking my bookcases, using them as a base point and a point to offset from. And then I just give a distance. I'm doing 10 feet. And there you have it. Next, I think I'll just place some benches along the windows here just to kind of finish out my design. So I'm going to go back into seating, benches. I'm going to drag and drop this one in, kind of center them under the table, or I'm sorry, center them under the window. And because my crosshairs are extended out to my full screen, it makes it easy for me to align these as I place them. So now that I have some furniture placed, I really should come up and save my drawing. So going up to my 2020 CAP Complete Start menu, I can do a save or save as, or in my Quick Tools menu up here, I also have those same options. So I'm just going to put this on my desktop and I'm just going to call it Fern. Now, one last thing I want to do to clean this up before we start pulling together some presentation materials is I want to take that student area text and move it out of the way. Now, because I brought this in as a block, I'm going to have to use a command called ref edit to edit that block. So if I select it, notice how my furniture is kind of shaded out now, which means I'm inside working in my block. And so I can actually select this text and move it. And I can either come up and use the actual move command, or I can use short keys by just typing the word M. selecting my text and move that out of my drawing space. And then I can just simply come up here and save out of my edit reference command. And now I'm ready to start thinking about how I want to present this to my client. And so in 2020 CAP Complete, we have the ability to use paper space. So here we can print out a floor plan, and or we can even generate a floor plan and a 3D if we like. So we could come in and generate or copy a plan to 3D. And so this would allow us to have a plan view, and then out in the outside portion of our drawing space, we can copy a 3D, and that way I can go into my paper space, and we have viewports that we can adjust to create the different views that we're looking for. So there I've just created very quickly my plan view, and then I could actually then copy this, make it larger, and turn my ortho off. And then I can go into this viewport. Oops, I accidentally copied it. Let me try that again. Delete one of them. Can go into that viewport, and I could change the view to be isometric and zoom over. And there now I quickly have a plan and a 3D that I can print out for my client. Now, another way to do this is through visual impression, which honestly, as a designer, I prefer, because even if you don't know the fabrics and finishes, in visual impression, you can do just a black and white hidden line rendering. You don't have to worry about specifying the finishes and or even building out architecture. So let's look at that. So to get started, I need to go into my visual impression and define a scene. So I'm just going to draw a boundary around my student area here. And in visual impression, you have the ability to do multiple scenes in your overall floor plate. So you don't have to create multiple drawings. It can all be done in the same drawing. And so once I define a scene, I'm going to visualize it in visual impression. And so here we can start to really pull our rendering together. I can pick a room shape here. I'll just do rectangle. And if I zoom out, you can see there's the product that I placed. I'm going to start by going into my room, and I'm going to start to develop my architecture. And I'll bring in a door. Now, one of the nice things that I love about visual impression in terms of building out your architecture is you don't have to really worry about the exact location and dimensions. You really just want to try to imply the architectural elements in your floor plan. And visual impression makes that so easy to do. And so I'm just making some adjustments here. I'm adding in some windows. I'm changing my ceiling height. I'm going to copy these windows so you can see how quickly I have been able to imply the architecture for this space. And I can even bring in some extras. We have lots of things that we can bring in, but for example, I can even bring in a staircase to really start to pull together a realistic rendering for my customer. And I can kind of set a home view here. Do that. And I can quickly specify materials as I mentioned. But again, if I don't want to take the time to do that, I have the ability to come in here and do a hidden line. I also have the ability to come in here and just hide the room architecture if I don't want to take the time to generate that. I can even hide individual components. So there's lots of ways that you can use visual impression. It's not just about doing an overall rendering. Think of it as more of a presentation tool. So I'm going to go ahead and start applying my materials. So I've selected my bookcase, and you can see I can very quickly come in here and select a finish and apply it to all of them. Same for my tables. I can quickly select the finishes, and it's nice because I can actually see what my fabric and finish options are as I'm making my selections. Here with these fabrics, how great is this to be able to go in and just visually see what you have to work with, what your options are. And I'll just pick, how about a rust color for my benches, apply that to all. Same with my architecture, I can apply finishes, apply materials to my architecture, whether it be the walls, the floors, my doors, my windows. And so now I can start to render this in a high quality. And wow, look how nice that's starting to look. Let me make adjustments maybe to the lighting. Oh, that looks really good. So I'm just going to take a quick snapshot, and then I can zoom around and work in additional angles to really give my client a view of how his space, to really give my client an idea of how the space is going to look. And we'll just take one more. I can go so far as to put scenes on my windows so that it looks like I'm looking outside. And then once I've created snapshots, I can go into my presentation tabs. So there's the snapshots that I took. I have the ability to load in all of my individual components that I placed in my project. And with this, I can then go through and very quickly do a PowerPoint presentation by just drag and dropping these assets into it, including all of my furniture materials, all of my room materials. Just makes it so simple to bring these into a PowerPoint without having to save them to my desktop or take them off of a manufacturer's website. Once I have that pulled together, I can apply this all back to my drawing file. And so, for example, if I do a cap info on my components, you're going to see that they're now fully specified. And then from here, I can just go ahead and create a worksheet and go through the rest of the process of finishing up my project for my customer. And so I hope this gives you an idea of how 2020 Cap Complete can help you design quickly and, more importantly, very accurately, and also gives you the ability with visual impression to just pull together some amazing renderings very quickly. And so if you have any questions, please reach out to our sales team or learn more about our products at 2020spaces.com. Oh, and before I go, I wanted to mention our training opportunities. So first of all, we have our online courses for not only 2020 CAP Complete, but also for all of our other 2020 office programs. And it's nice because they're only 2 hours long, they're live, there's typically just a few people in class, and it's great because it gives you the opportunity to follow along as we go over the topics. That way you feel comfortable with the commands that you're working with, and also you get the opportunity to ask any questions if you have them. If you do get the opportunity to take an online class, I highly recommend our visual impression courses. I just love visual impression. It's so easy for me to convey my design to my client. And today we just covered a little bit of what it can do. There's so much more that you can do in terms of stylizing your rendering, bringing in lighting, office equipment. We have plants, we have people, just all those different things to really bring together your rendering and make it look real. And so these courses, we go through that process and we talk about how you can just quickly render your design. Now, the other option is our new on demand classes for 2020 CAP Complete and 2020 Worksheet. You can register for an individual class or you can buy a bundle of classes, of course, at a discounted price, which is nice. This is great because if you have a new designer coming in and you really want to get them started right away, you can have them sign up for these classes. And once they're registered, you can access the class for up to 6 months. So they can start taking the courses and just keep refreshing until they really feel comfortable using the program. And so I hope this was helpful, and I also hope to see you in an upcoming class.